This is Sean Walters. This transmission is being recorded as part of the mission log and emergency continuity record. If this signal is received outside scheduled intervals, log the timestamp and maintain listening silence. We are currently operating at extreme depth. Descent began on schedule and followed the planned profile. No deviations were noted during the first phase. Current depth is 10,180 meters. External pressure is within predicted limits for this hull class. Internal pressure remains stable. Power systems are operating normally. Primary supply is steady. Secondary systems are active but not under load. Battery reserves are full. Environmental controls are functioning. Oxygen concentration is normal. Carbon dioxide removal systems are cycling on schedule. Humidity is slightly elevated but acceptable. Crew count is unchanged. All personnel are accounted for and responding to checks. There are no medical concerns at this time. The purpose of this broadcast is documentation. It is not intended as an emergency call at this stage. The descent rate was reduced earlier to stabilize trim. Ballast control responded slower than expected but did respond. Engineering attributes this to increased fluid resistance at temperature. Internal temperature is decreasing gradually. This was expected at this depth. Heating systems are compensating within their designed range. Hull monitoring systems show elevated stress readings on several frames. All readings remain within allowable tolerances. Frame 7 is registering higher strain than predicted. This has been logged and is under observation. There is no indication of hull breach. No pressure differential has been detected between compartments. Acoustic sensors show no nearby contacts. No external disturbances are present. Communications to Surface Command remain active. There is a measurable delay. This delay is increasing gradually and remains within acceptable limits. I am maintaining a steady speaking pace for clarity. This is intentional. Engineering reports a thermal exchanger cycling more frequently than planned. This is being investigated. No corrective action has been required so far. Ballast valve 3 reported partial response during a trim adjustment. The valve completed its cycle after manual override. It is now flagged for monitoring. All other valves are responding normally. We are holding depth with minor oscillation. This oscillation is less than 1 meter. It does not affect operations. The vessel is designed to operate in this environment for a limited duration. Current time at depth is within that duration. There is no indication of external damage. External camera feeds show only suspended particulate matter. Visibility is minimal as expected. Hull temperature sensors are reading slightly lower than predicted. This variance is small. Engineering considers it acceptable. A structural monitoring advisory was issued earlier. This was not an alarm. It required acknowledgement only. That advisory has been acknowledged and logged. Crew movement is minimal. All non-essential activity has been reduced. This is standard procedure at depth. Power consumption has increased marginally due to heating compensation. This increase is within projected limits. Communications quality has degraded slightly. Voice compression is active. Clarity remains sufficient. I will continue to report system status at regular intervals. Depth remains stable. Frame 7 strain has increased by a small amount since the last report. The increase is gradual. No sudden changes have occurred. Structural monitoring systems are designed to flag sudden events. No such events have been recorded. Engineering reports a pressure equalization valve in compartment 4 briefly shifted position without command. The valve returned to its closed position immediately. No pressure loss was detected. This behavior has been logged. We are continuing operations. Internal noise levels have changed slightly. This is attributed to circulation adjustments. No abnormal vibrations have been detected. Communications delay has increased further. Surface responses are arriving intermittently. Outbound transmissions are still being sent. There is no instruction from Surface Command to alter the mission profile. Power distribution remains balanced. No bus faults are present. One internal temperature sensor has stopped reporting data. Engineering suspects a sensor fault due to thermal contraction. Redundant sensors are providing coverage. This does not affect safety at this time. Structural monitoring has escalated frame 7 from green to advisory status. This indicates increased attention, not failure. Trim adjustments are being made to redistribute load. Ballast response is slower than expected. Engineering is compensating manually. There has been no loss of buoyancy control. Crew status remains stable. There are no signs of panic or distress. All communications are professional. This broadcast continues for record integrity. The environment outside the hull remains unchanged. No external forces are acting on the vessel beyond ambient pressure. Pressure continues to increase incrementally as depth stabilizes. The hull is designed to accommodate this. Internal pressure remains constant. Heating systems are now operating closer to maximum output. This was anticipated at this depth. Power reserves remain sufficient. Communications delay now exceeds planned margins. Acoustic backup remains available. Fiber communication is still active. Structural strain readings continue to rise slowly across multiple frames. This distribution is more favorable than localized stress. Engineering is reviewing structural models. A fastener failure was detected in a non-critical internal mount. Redundant supports are holding. No secondary damage occurred. This event has been logged. There is no hull compromise. The vessel remains intact. I am being advised to continue broadcasting without interruption. This is not an emergency declaration. It is important to state this clearly. We are still within operational parameters. However, system behavior is diverging from predicted models. This divergence is gradual. Gradual changes are more difficult to correct than sudden ones. Hull strain continues to increase at a slow rate. No alarms have been triggered. Power systems adjusted distribution automatically a moment ago. This adjustment was not commanded manually. The system detected a load imbalance and compensated. Engineering is reviewing the cause. Internal circulation noise has decreased. This is unexpected but not immediately dangerous. Structural monitoring has issued another advisory. This advisory applies to multiple frames. Engineering is attempting further trim adjustments. Ballast valves are responding inconsistently. All valves are still functional. Communications from Surface Command are fragmented. Requests for status confirmation are being received intermittently. Responses are being transmitted. It is unclear how much data is arriving intact. I will state the situation plainly. We are not experiencing a single failure. We are experiencing multiple small deviations. Each deviation alone is manageable. Their combination is reducing safety margin. There is no immediate corrective action available that will reverse all of them. Engineering continues to work through available procedures. Crew discipline remains intact. I will continue to speak clearly and consistently. This broadcast will continue unless transmission capability is lost or I am instructed to stop. Time at depth has now exceeded the planned operational window by 12 minutes. This extension was approved earlier due to initial stability readings. Those readings are no longer improving. Depth remains constant within half a meter. This is being maintained through continuous ballast correction rather than passive equilibrium. That distinction matters. Ballast system activity is higher than planned. Valves are cycling more frequently. Hydraulic pressure remains within limits, but response time continues to slow. Engineering reports increased resistance in multiple actuator lines. Fluid temperature is lower than predicted. Heating jackets are active but cannot fully offset viscosity changes. Structural monitoring now shows all lower frames operating in advisory range. No single frame has crossed into alarm status. The trend is uniform. Uniform strain suggests overall compression rather than localized defect. This is preferable, but it also limits corrective options. Communications quality has degraded further. Outbound transmissions are confirmed as sent. Inbound confirmations are incomplete. Surface Command requested a depth reduction earlier. That request arrived after a delay and without full context. Engineering evaluated the feasibility. A controlled ascent is not currently possible. Ballast response lag makes precise buoyancy adjustment unreliable. An uncontrolled ascent is not an acceptable option. This assessment has been transmitted. Internal temperature continues to fall. Heating systems are operating near maximum output. Power draw has increased accordingly. Power reserves remain sufficient for continued operation, but margins are narrowing. A second internal sensor cluster has stopped reporting. Redundant coverage remains available. Sensor loss does not indicate immediate failure, but it reduces diagnostic resolution. Crew activity remains minimal. All non-essential systems are powered down. Air quality remains within limits. Oxygen levels are stable. Carbon dioxide removal is functioning but cycling more frequently. Humidity has increased. Condensation is forming on some internal surfaces. This has been noted and does not affect operations. Structural modeling software is producing inconsistent projections. Inputs are valid. Outputs vary depending on assumed material behavior. Engineering suspects microstructural changes in the hull material due to sustained pressure. These changes are within theoretical expectations but were not observed during testing. Testing did not replicate this duration at this depth. Structural advisories are now persistent rather than intermittent. The system is no longer returning to baseline between checks. This does not indicate imminent failure. It indicates reduced tolerance. Communications delay now exceeds 30 seconds. Surface command responses are arriving out of sequence. I am maintaining continuous broadcast as instructed. Ballast valve 3 has been isolated. This reduces fine trim control but improves system predictability. Remaining valves are compensating. Overall stability is being maintained manually. Engineering reports increased load on the keel structure. This is consistent with compression patterns observed. There is no evidence of cracking or breach. No pressure differential has been detected. Hull integrity remains intact. The vessel is still safe to occupy at this moment. I am stating that carefully. Crew psychological state remains professional. There is no visible distress. Conversations are limited to operational communication. Extended silence is being avoided deliberately. Structural monitoring has escalated from advisory to caution status across multiple frames. This is a system-wide change. Caution status indicates that corrective actions should be taken if available. Available actions are limited. A partial ballast purge was attempted to relieve hull load. Response was delayed and incomplete. The purge was aborted to prevent instability. This outcome was expected based on prior behavior. Engineering is reviewing contingency procedures. Several procedures are not applicable at this depth. Power distribution has shifted again without manual input. The system is prioritizing structural monitoring and life support. Non-essential computational loads have been shed automatically. Communication systems are operating on reduced bandwidth. Voice clarity is decreasing. This broadcast remains intelligible. External environment remains unchanged. No seismic activity detected. No external impacts recorded. Pressure continues to increase incrementally as the vessel settles. This is not due to descent. It is due to gradual hull compression reducing internal volume. This effect was anticipated in theory. It was not expected to be measurable at this stage. Internal pressure compensation systems are maintaining cabin pressure. They are operating continuously rather than cycling. This increases wear. Structural modeling now indicates that stress redistribution is no longer linear. Certain frames are absorbing more load than predicted. Frame 7 remains the highest. Frames 8 and 9 are approaching similar values. Engineering attempted localized load redistribution through trim adjustment. The effect was minimal. Communications from Surface Command are now fragmented to the point of being unreliable. We are receiving requests for data that has already been sent. It is unclear what Surface Command understands about our current state. I will restate key points for the record. The vessel is intact. There is no breach. Life support is functioning. Structural stress is increasing gradually and persistently. Corrective options are limited by depth and system response lag. This is not an emergency declaration. It is a status update. Crew has been instructed to remain at assigned stations. Emergency equipment is standing by but not deployed. A third sensor cluster has degraded. This one is related to external hull temperature. Engineering suspects wiring contraction. Redundant estimation is still possible through remaining sensors. Structural monitoring software has reduced update frequency automatically. This is to prevent false positives due to sensor noise. This also reduces responsiveness. Power reserves have dropped below projected levels due to sustained heating load. This does not present immediate danger. It shortens available operating time. Ballast control responsiveness continues to degrade. Manual input remains effective but slow. Engineering reports that actuator motors are operating at increased current draw. This suggests mechanical resistance. Lubrication systems are functioning but less effective at current temperature. Internal noise levels have stabilized. This suggests that system adjustments have reached a new equilibrium. Equilibrium does not imply safety. It implies balance. Structural caution status remains active. I am being advised to prepare for potential transition to emergency protocol. This is preparatory only. No emergency signal has been declared. Communications delay now exceeds 40 seconds. Some transmissions are not acknowledged at all. I will continue broadcasting regardless of acknowledgement. The purpose of this record is continuity. Crew status remains unchanged. No one has requested medical assistance. No injuries have occurred. Internal lighting has been reduced further to conserve power. Visibility remains adequate. Environmental systems continue to function. Structural modeling now includes scenarios where corrective action is no longer possible. These scenarios are being reviewed quietly. Engineering has not yet communicated a recommended course of action. I am not speculating. The ocean outside remains constant. Pressure remains constant. There is no external event driving these changes. This is an internal progression. Hull strain values are no longer increasing smoothly. They are increasing in small steps with pauses between. This pattern is concerning. It suggests material accommodation rather than elastic response. Accommodation has limits. No alarms have been triggered yet. The system has not declared failure. Elapsed time since last status transmission is 21 minutes. That interval is longer than planned. It reflects internal workload, not loss of control. Depth remains nominal. Variations are now measured in centimeters rather than meters. This is not because the vessel is stable. It is because corrective authority is nearly continuous. Ballast systems are no longer cycling on demand. They are being held in fixed positions and adjusted incrementally. This reduces responsiveness but prevents overshoot. Engineering reports that several ballast actuators are operating near thermal limits. This is due to sustained current draw rather than ambient temperature. Cooling capacity is insufficient to reduce load. Structural monitoring remains in caution status. No transition to alarm has occurred. However, caution indicators are no longer clearing between cycles. This indicates that strain is not recovering. Hull strain values are now being averaged across sensor arrays. Individual sensors are becoming less reliable. Averaging improves trend visibility but hides local variation. This is a compromise. Internal temperature has dropped further. Heating systems are operating at maximum safe output. Any further increase would risk electrical instability. Power reserves have declined to 84% of projected levels for this phase. This reduction is attributable to sustained heating and actuator load. Life support systems remain within operating limits. Oxygen generation is steady. Carbon dioxide removal efficiency has decreased slightly but remains adequate. Crew reports increased condensation in lower compartments. This is consistent with temperature gradients. No electrical hazards have been identified. Communications from Surface Command are now sporadic. Inbound messages are often incomplete. Outbound transmissions are sent but rarely acknowledged. We have transitioned to autonomous operational decision-making. This is standard procedure when communication reliability falls below threshold. This transition does not indicate emergency status. Engineering attempted a secondary trim redistribution using internal mass shift. The effect was negligible. The hull is already carrying load uniformly. Structural modeling has been updated using real-time strain data. Updated projections show reduced remaining tolerance. This information has been shared with command staff on board. No announcement has been made to the full crew. Crew discipline remains intact. No one has left their assigned position. Structural monitoring software has issued a recommendation to reduce depth. Engineering has assessed that recommendation. Ascent requires precise buoyancy control. Current ballast responsiveness does not meet the required precision. An attempted ascent under these conditions carries unacceptable risk. This assessment has been logged. We remain at depth. Internal noise characteristics have changed again. Circulation systems are operating continuously rather than in cycles. This indicates that equilibrium is being actively maintained. Active maintenance consumes power and increases wear. Hull strain readings are now fluctuating rather than trending smoothly. The magnitude of fluctuation is small. The frequency has increased. This pattern suggests localized stress adjustment. No single location has exceeded material limits. Frame 7 remains the highest load-bearing section. Frames 6 through 10 are within 5% of each other. Engineering has reduced internal movement restrictions further. All crew are now instructed to remain seated or braced unless movement is required. This is to minimize internal dynamic loads. Internal lighting has been reduced to emergency operational levels. This conserves power and reduces heat load. Visibility is adequate for instrument operation. A fourth sensor cluster has ceased reporting. This cluster monitored internal hull deformation. Engineering believes sensor wiring has lost continuity. Redundant estimation is still possible but less precise. Structural advisories are now being generated by model inference rather than direct measurement. This increases uncertainty. I am stating that clearly for the record. Power distribution has shifted again. Several non-essential systems have been shut down automatically. This includes secondary data logging and auxiliary computing. Primary logging remains active. Communications equipment remains powered. Hull temperature on the external surface is now significantly lower than predicted. This increases material brittleness. Material specifications account for this, but only within defined limits. Those limits are approaching. No audible alarms have sounded. Alarm thresholds have not been crossed. This is important. Alarm thresholds are designed to prevent sudden failure, not gradual progression. Gradual progression can continue without alarms. Engineering has completed a review of contingency procedures. Several procedures assume either higher system responsiveness or shallower depth. Those procedures are not applicable. Emergency ballast release remains an option. This option is not being considered at this time. Emergency ballast release would initiate an uncontrolled ascent. At this depth, uncontrolled ascent poses structural risk. This assessment is unanimous. Crew psychological state remains controlled. There are no raised voices. No one has requested clarification beyond operational need. Silence is being used deliberately to conserve focus. Hull strain values have reached a plateau for the past 6 minutes. This plateau is not accompanied by recovery. It suggests temporary accommodation. Accommodation does not restore margin. Power reserves continue to decline gradually. Life support systems remain stable. Carbon dioxide levels have increased slightly but remain within acceptable range. Scrubber efficiency is being monitored closely. Humidity continues to rise. This is being managed through circulation rather than dehumidification to conserve power. Structural monitoring software has reduced confidence ratings on its own projections. This is an automated response to sensor loss and model divergence. Reduced confidence does not indicate failure. It indicates uncertainty. Engineering is now operating with partial information. I will restate the situation without interpretation. The vessel is intact. There is no breach. Life support is functioning. Structural stress is elevated and persistent. Corrective options are limited. Communication with Surface Command is unreliable. No emergency has been declared. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 47 minutes. Power reserves are sufficient for continued operation but not indefinite operation. Hull strain readings have begun to increase again after the plateau. The increase is slow. This increase is not uniform. Frame 7 has increased more than adjacent frames. Engineering attempted localized heating to reduce material stiffness. The effect was minimal. Heating power was reduced to prevent electrical overload. Communications delay now exceeds 1 minute. This broadcast may not be reaching the surface in real time. It may be recorded and received later. That is acceptable. The purpose of this record is documentation. Crew has been informed that structural margins are reduced. No additional information has been shared. This was a deliberate choice to maintain operational focus. Emergency equipment remains stowed. No evacuation procedures have been initiated. Structural monitoring has issued a pre-alarm advisory. This is a system state below alarm threshold. Pre-alarm indicates that alarm conditions are possible if trends continue. This advisory has been acknowledged. Engineering has no further corrective actions available that do not increase risk. We are now in a monitoring posture. Monitoring posture is not passive. It is controlled observation without intervention. Intervention at this stage may accelerate failure. That assessment is based on current data. Crew remains at stations. No one has spoken unnecessarily. Internal noise has stabilized again. This suggests that systems have reached another equilibrium. Equilibrium continues to require active input. Power reserves are now at 79% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Hull strain continues to increase in small increments. No alarms have triggered. This is a difficult condition to manage. The vessel is performing as designed. The environment is exceeding design assumptions. Those two statements can coexist. The interval reflects no interruption. It reflects the pace of events. Depth remains constant. Holding that depth now requires continuous correction. Passive stability is no longer present. Ballast control is operating in a constrained mode. Valves are being adjusted in very small increments. Response lag has increased further. Engineering reports that 2 additional actuator motors are nearing current limits. Thermal protection has not tripped. Margins are thin. Structural monitoring remains in pre-alarm advisory. This state has persisted longer than expected. The system is no longer attempting to clear it. Hull strain values continue to rise slowly. The rise is uneven. Frame 7 remains the highest. Frame 8 has begun to approach it. Engineering confirms no visible cracking. No acoustic signatures of fracture have been detected. This does not rule out internal material change. Internal temperature has stabilized. This stabilization is the result of maximum heating output. No additional thermal correction is available. Power reserves are now at 74% of projected levels. This reduction is accelerating slightly as systems remain continuously active. Life support remains within acceptable limits. Oxygen levels are stable. Carbon dioxide levels are elevated but below threshold. Scrubber cycling frequency has increased again. Humidity is high. Condensation is present on structural members. Electrical systems remain isolated and protected. Communications from Surface Command are no longer coherent. Inbound messages arrive partially and out of sequence. Outbound transmissions are being sent but not confirmed. We are operating fully autonomously. Engineering has completed a final review of all remaining corrective procedures. No additional actions are available that would reduce hull stress without introducing higher risk. This assessment is unanimous. Crew has been informed that the vessel will remain at depth unless conditions change significantly. No objections were raised. Crew behavior remains controlled. Speech is minimal and task-focused. Internal movement restrictions remain in place. Structural monitoring has now reduced update frequency again. This is due to sensor uncertainty. Updates now reflect average trends over longer intervals. This reduces sensitivity to sudden change. It does not prevent detection of failure. Hull strain values have entered a range where historical data is limited. Testing did not include sustained exposure at these values. Engineering notes that material behavior may now deviate from elastic assumptions. This is not a failure state. It is a poorly characterized state. Power distribution shifted again automatically. Additional non-essential systems have been shut down. Only life support, structural monitoring, ballast control, and communications remain fully powered. Internal lighting is now at minimum operational levels. Crew visibility is adequate for instrument panels only. Internal noise levels are steady. There are no new sounds indicating sudden change. That absence is not reassuring. It is simply noted. Hull strain continues to increase in small steps. Between steps, values remain stable. This stepping pattern suggests incremental material accommodation. Accommodation consumes margin. Engineering attempted a final minor trim adjustment. The adjustment produced no measurable effect. The hull load did not redistribute. Further attempts have been discontinued. Communications delay now exceeds 90 seconds. This broadcast may no longer be monitored live. That does not change procedure. Carbon dioxide levels have reached the upper end of normal operating range. Scrubber efficiency is decreasing as canisters approach saturation. Replacement is possible but would require crew movement. Engineering has advised delaying replacement to avoid introducing dynamic load. This is a calculated risk. Crew has acknowledged. Structural monitoring has issued a secondary pre-alarm notice. This notice indicates that rate of change is increasing. Rate of change remains slow. The increase is relative. No alarms have triggered. I will describe the current condition plainly. The vessel is intact. Life support is functioning. Structural stress is elevated beyond tested conditions. System responsiveness is degraded. No corrective actions remain that reduce risk. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 1 hour and 12 minutes. Power reserves are sufficient for continued operation for a limited time. They are not sufficient for indefinite operation. Hull strain values have increased again. Frame 7 has crossed into a range where modeling confidence is low. Engineering has begun manual logging of strain data. Automated projections are considered unreliable. Crew has been instructed to brace where seated. This is precautionary. No emergency procedures have been initiated. Internal temperature remains stable. External hull temperature continues to decrease. Material brittleness risk is increasing. No external forces are acting on the vessel beyond ambient pressure. The ocean remains unchanged. Structural monitoring has briefly paused data output. This pause lasted 3 seconds. Output resumed automatically. Engineering attributes the pause to computational load redistribution. This event has been logged. Power reserves are now at 70% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels continue to rise slowly. Replacement of scrubber canisters will be required within the next hour to maintain margin. Engineering is reassessing movement restrictions in light of this requirement. Structural strain values have begun to fluctuate more widely. The magnitude remains small. The frequency has increased. This pattern suggests internal redistribution is becoming less controlled. No fracture indicators have been detected. Hull integrity remains intact. Crew reports increased difficulty maintaining focus due to fatigue. This is expected given extended duration at depth. Crew rotation is not possible. Communications equipment continues to operate. Signal clarity is reduced. Speech remains intelligible. I will continue speaking at a steady pace. Structural monitoring has now issued a caution notice. This notice is above pre-alarm and below alarm. Caution indicates that failure is not imminent but becoming possible. This notice has been acknowledged. Engineering confirms that no automated response is associated with this notice. It is informational. Hull strain values are now increasing without pause between steps. The increase remains slow. This change in pattern is significant. Power reserves continue to decline. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels are approaching replacement threshold. Engineering has authorized limited crew movement to prepare scrubber replacement equipment. Movement will be slow and deliberate. This introduces minor internal load. Structural monitoring did not register any immediate change. Scrubber replacement is being prepared but not yet executed. Hull strain continues to rise. No alarms have triggered. The vessel remains intact. I am maintaining this record continuously. If this transmission ends without conclusion, it will indicate loss of transmission capability, not abandonment of procedure. Depth remains constant. Holding that depth now requires continuous manual input. Automatic stabilization is no longer sufficient. Ballast actuators are operating at reduced responsiveness. Engineering reports intermittent delays between command and movement. Commands are being issued earlier to compensate. Structural monitoring remains in caution status. The system has not escalated to alarm. Confidence indicators continue to decline. Hull strain values continue to increase. The increase is now measurable over shorter intervals. There are fewer pauses between changes. Engineering reports no acoustic indicators of fracture. No sudden changes have been detected. This does not indicate safety. It indicates gradual progression. Internal temperature remains stable. Heating systems cannot increase output further. Electrical margins would be exceeded. Power reserves are now at 66% of projected levels. Consumption rate remains elevated. Life support systems remain functional. Oxygen generation is stable. Carbon dioxide levels have reached the replacement threshold. Engineering has authorized scrubber canister replacement. Movement restrictions are temporarily adjusted. 2 crew members are performing the replacement. Movement is slow and controlled. Structural monitoring did not register immediate change during movement. This is noted. Communications remain unreliable. No inbound messages from Surface Command have been intelligible during this interval. Outbound transmissions continue. Scrubber replacement is underway. Estimated completion time is 6 minutes. Hull strain values increased slightly during the initial movement. The increase was within expected range. This correlation has been logged. Power distribution shifted again automatically. Non-essential lighting has been shut down completely. Visibility is limited to instrument panels. Scrubber replacement is complete. Carbon dioxide removal efficiency is expected to improve within minutes. Crew movement has ceased. All personnel are seated or braced. Structural monitoring shows continued increase in strain. The rate has not changed significantly. Engineering reports that actuator motor temperatures have reached protective thresholds. Thermal limiting is now active. This further reduces responsiveness. Ballast control authority is now minimal. Depth is being held through balance rather than adjustment. This condition is not stable long-term. Hull strain values have entered a range where material behavior may shift abruptly. Engineering cannot predict when or how that shift would occur. This uncertainty has been communicated to command staff on board. No emergency declaration has been made. Crew remains calm. Speech is limited. No one has requested clarification beyond operational need. Power reserves are now at 62% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels are decreasing following scrubber replacement. Humidity remains high. Structural monitoring update frequency has decreased again. Updates are now averaged over longer periods. This reduces noise. It also reduces warning time. Hull strain continues to rise. Frame 7 remains the highest load-bearing frame. Frames 8 and 9 are nearly equal. Engineering has disabled non-essential structural analytics to conserve power. Core monitoring remains active. Communications equipment continues to operate at reduced bandwidth. Internal noise levels remain steady. No new mechanical sounds have been detected. The absence of new sound does not indicate improvement. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 1 hour and 46 minutes. Power consumption remains elevated. Engineering has calculated remaining operational time assuming no further degradation. That calculation is no longer being updated automatically. Inputs are too uncertain. Manual estimates suggest limited remaining margin. No specific time frame has been communicated. Hull strain values have begun to increase in larger increments. The increments are still small. The change in pattern is notable. Engineering confirms that this pattern is consistent with progressive material accommodation. Accommodation does not reverse. Structural monitoring has issued another caution notice. This notice repeats prior information with increased urgency weighting. No alarm has triggered. Alarm thresholds remain unchanged. Internal temperature has begun to fluctuate slightly. This fluctuation is due to power redistribution. Heating output remains constant. Power reserves are now at 59% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels are within acceptable range. Crew reports increased fatigue. This is expected. No one has left their station. Communications delay is now indeterminate. This broadcast may be received as a continuous recording rather than live transmission. That outcome is acceptable. The purpose of this record remains documentation. Hull strain values continue to increase without pause. Engineering has no remaining corrective actions. This is not a failure declaration. It is a statement of current options. The vessel remains intact. No breach has occurred. Structural monitoring has not declared alarm. The environment outside remains unchanged. Pressure remains constant. The ocean is applying continuous load. Internal systems are compensating continuously. Compensation consumes margin. Power reserves continue to decline. Life support remains stable. I will continue speaking clearly. No interruption occurred. The interval reflects system checks. Depth remains unchanged. Holding depth now requires constant attention. There is no remaining buffer. Ballast control authority is minimal. Actuators respond slowly and unevenly. Commands must be anticipated rather than reactive. Engineering reports that several actuator motors are now operating under thermal limiting continuously. This means available force is reduced. There is no method to restore full performance. Structural monitoring remains in caution status. The system has not escalated to alarm. Confidence indicators are now at their lowest recorded values. Hull strain values continue to rise. The rate of increase is slightly higher than before. The change is consistent across multiple frames. Frame 7 remains the highest. Frame 8 is now effectively equal. Frame 9 is close behind. Engineering confirms there is still no indication of a breach. No pressure differential has been detected. No rapid acoustic events have occurred. This does not indicate safety. It indicates absence of sudden failure. Internal temperature has begun to vary by small amounts. This is due to uneven heat distribution as power is prioritized. The variation is within tolerable limits. Power reserves are now at 55% of projected levels. Consumption rate remains high and steady. Life support systems remain operational. Oxygen concentration is stable. Carbon dioxide levels are within normal range following scrubber replacement. Humidity remains elevated. Condensation continues to form on exposed surfaces. Communications remain unreliable. No inbound messages from Surface Command have been clearly received. Outbound transmissions continue without confirmation. We are fully autonomous. Engineering reports that structural modeling is no longer producing useful projections. The models rely on assumptions that are no longer valid at current strain levels. From this point forward, monitoring is observational rather than predictive. Crew has been informed of this change. No one has spoken in response. Structural monitoring update intervals have increased again. This reduces processor load. It also reduces warning time. Hull strain values continue to increase during each update. Engineering reports that strain is now approaching the upper end of allowable material behavior. This range was defined conservatively. There is limited empirical data beyond it. Power distribution has stabilized. There are no additional systems available to shut down without affecting life support or monitoring. Internal lighting remains minimal. Internal noise levels remain steady. No new sounds indicating sudden change have been detected. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 2 hours and 6 minutes. Power reserves continue to decline. Current level is 52% of projected. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain controlled. Crew fatigue is evident but manageable. No errors have been reported. Structural monitoring has issued another caution notice. This notice reflects increased rate of change rather than absolute value. No alarm has triggered. Engineering confirms that alarm thresholds are intentionally conservative. They are designed to detect sudden failure, not gradual progression. Gradual progression continues. Hull strain values have increased again. The increase is now measurable within a single update interval. This is a change. Engineering notes that this suggests reduced ability of the material to redistribute load smoothly. No immediate action is possible. Ballast control is now effectively static. Any adjustment introduces more risk than benefit. Depth is being held through balance rather than control. Internal temperature has dropped slightly. Heating output cannot increase further. Power reserves are now at 49% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Communications equipment continues to operate. This broadcast is still being recorded. Structural monitoring has briefly paused again. This pause lasted 2 seconds. Data resumed automatically. Engineering attributes this to computational prioritization. Hull strain values following the pause were higher than before. The difference is small. The trend is not. Crew has been instructed to brace continuously. All personnel are seated or supported. Emergency equipment remains unused. No evacuation procedures exist for this environment. Structural monitoring confidence indicators are now effectively zero. The system is reporting raw values without interpretation. Engineering is manually tracking those values. Hull strain values are now approaching the upper design envelope. This is not an alarm. It is a boundary. Power reserves continue to decline. Current level is 46% of projected. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain within acceptable limits. No external disturbances have been detected. The ocean outside remains unchanged. Pressure remains constant. The hull continues to carry load. Internal systems continue to compensate. Compensation consumes remaining margin. Engineering has no further input to provide. I will state the condition plainly. The vessel is intact. Life support is functioning. Structural stress is high and increasing. System responsiveness is minimal. No corrective actions remain. No emergency declaration has been made. Depth remains unchanged. Depth control is now passive in effect. No meaningful corrective authority remains. Ballast systems are holding position only. Actuators are no longer being adjusted. Any movement introduces instability. Engineering confirms that ballast control is effectively saturated. This is not a failure. It is a limit. Structural monitoring remains active. Update frequency is low. Values are being logged manually as well as automatically. Hull strain values continue to rise. The increase is steady. There are no reversals. Frame 7 and Frame 8 are now functionally identical in load. Frame 9 remains slightly lower. The distribution suggests uniform compression across the lower hull. Engineering confirms that this pattern leaves no preferred relief path. Load cannot migrate away from stressed areas. Internal temperature has decreased by a small amount. Heating systems cannot compensate further. Electrical margins would be exceeded. Power reserves are now at 42% of projected levels. Consumption remains steady. Life support systems remain functional. Oxygen concentration is stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain controlled following scrubber replacement. Humidity remains high. Condensation is present but contained. Communications systems remain active. No inbound transmissions from Surface Command have been received in full. Outbound transmissions continue. We are operating entirely without external coordination. Crew posture remains controlled. All personnel are seated or braced. No one is moving unnecessarily. No one is speaking unless required. Structural monitoring has ceased issuing advisory language. It is now reporting numeric values only. This change is automatic. Hull strain values have reached a range where the system no longer categorizes them. They are logged without interpretation. Engineering confirms that this range is beyond validated testing conditions. This does not indicate immediate failure. It indicates uncertainty. Power distribution remains unchanged. No further load shedding is possible. Internal lighting remains minimal. Internal noise levels remain steady. There are no sudden changes in sound or vibration. That absence continues. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 2 hours and 23 minutes. Power reserves continue to decline. Current level is 39% of projected. Life support remains stable. Structural monitoring logs show that strain increases are now occurring in smaller time intervals. The magnitude of each increase remains small. The frequency has increased. Engineering notes that this pattern suggests diminishing elastic response. Elastic response allows recovery. This system is no longer recovering. No alarms have triggered. Alarm thresholds remain unchanged. Internal temperature continues to drift downward slowly. Heating output remains constant. Crew fatigue is increasing. This is observable but controlled. No errors have been reported. Structural monitoring recorded a brief discontinuity in data logging. This lasted 1 second. Data resumed immediately. Values following the discontinuity were higher than before. The increase is small. The trend is consistent. Engineering confirms that no sensor failure is indicated. The discontinuity likely reflects processing delay. Hull strain values are now near the upper boundary of the design envelope. This envelope includes safety margin. The margin is diminishing. Power reserves are now at 36% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain within acceptable range. Communications equipment continues to operate. I will restate the condition without interpretation. The vessel remains intact. There is no breach. Life support is functioning. Structural stress is high and increasing. System responsiveness is minimal. No corrective actions remain. No emergency declaration has been made. This record continues because recording is still possible. If this transmission is received later, understand that all procedures were followed up to this point. No action has been taken that increased risk deliberately. Structural monitoring has recorded another increase. The increase is larger than the previous increment. This is noted. Engineering confirms that this increase does not cross any defined alarm threshold. It reduces remaining margin further. Power reserves continue to decline. Current level is 33% of projected. Life support remains stable. No external disturbances have been detected. The ocean outside remains unchanged. Pressure remains constant. The hull continues to carry load. Internal systems continue to compensate. Compensation consumes remaining margin. Ballast systems remain static. Actuators are powered but not responding with usable precision. Engineering has ceased issuing ballast commands. Structural monitoring continues to report numeric values only. No advisory language is being generated. Hull strain values continue to increase. The rate is no longer steady. Intervals between increases are shortening. Frame 7 has exceeded previously recorded values. Frames 8 and 9 are following closely. Engineering confirms that the distribution now indicates collective compression rather than localized stress. This reduces the likelihood of a single-point failure. It increases the likelihood of global structural collapse. Internal temperature has dropped again by a small margin. Heating systems remain at maximum safe output. Power reserves are now at 30% of projected levels. Power draw remains constant. Life support systems continue to function. Oxygen concentration is stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain controlled. Humidity remains high. Communications equipment continues to operate. No inbound messages have been received. Crew posture remains unchanged. All personnel are seated or braced. Movement has ceased. No one is speaking unless required. Structural monitoring update intervals have shortened again. This is not due to system choice. It is due to increasing rate of change. Hull strain values are now increasing within each update window. Engineering confirms that the material is no longer redistributing load efficiently. This suggests the hull is transitioning from elastic behavior to plastic behavior. Plastic behavior does not recover. No alarms have triggered. Alarm thresholds remain unchanged. Internal noise levels remain steady. No sharp events have been detected. The absence of sudden sound continues. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 2 hours and 41 minutes. Power reserves continue to decline. Current level is 27% of projected. Life support remains stable. Structural monitoring has recorded a brief irregularity in strain data. The irregularity lasted less than 1 second. Values resumed at a higher baseline. Engineering confirms this was not sensor error. Hull strain values are now within a range where failure can occur without warning. This statement is for the record. No emergency declaration has been made. Engineering reports that all remaining procedures assume conditions no longer present. There are no further actions available. Crew has been informed that no corrective actions remain. This information was delivered without commentary. No objections were raised. Crew behavior remains controlled. Internal lighting remains minimal. Power reserves are now at 24% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain within acceptable range. Structural monitoring logs show a continued increase. The increments are now larger. Engineering confirms that this pattern is consistent with accelerating material deformation. Acceleration does not imply immediacy. It implies direction. Communications equipment continues to function. This broadcast is still being recorded. Internal temperature has stabilized again. This stabilization is temporary. Hull strain values have now exceeded the highest values observed during qualification testing. This does not trigger an alarm. It removes reference. Engineering is no longer comparing values to models. They are observing only. Power reserves are now at 21% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. No external disturbances have been detected. The ocean outside remains unchanged. Pressure remains constant. Structural monitoring has recorded a change in strain symmetry. Frames 7 through 10 are now increasing together. Engineering confirms this indicates global hull participation. This reduces uncertainty. It removes options. Crew has been instructed to maintain brace posture continuously. No one has moved. No one has spoken. Hull strain values continue to rise. There is no indication of breach. Internal pressure remains constant. Life support remains functional. Power reserves are now at 18% of projected levels. Engineering confirms that power loss will not immediately result in hull failure. It will reduce monitoring and life support capability. This is noted. Structural monitoring has recorded a larger increment than any previous one. The increment occurred over 2 seconds. Engineering confirms this is significant. No alarm has triggered. Alarm thresholds are designed for rapid failure modes. This is not rapid. Internal noise levels remain unchanged. No cracking sounds. No sharp events. This absence is consistent with compression-dominated failure. Time at depth now exceeds planned duration by 2 hours and 58 minutes. Power reserves are now at 16% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain controlled. Structural monitoring update intervals have shortened again. Hull strain values are now increasing continuously rather than in steps. Engineering confirms that this indicates loss of structural accommodation. Accommodation has ended. The hull is now resisting directly. No corrective actions exist. This is not an emergency declaration. It is a state description. Power reserves are now at 14% of projected levels. Communications equipment remains active. Internal lighting remains minimal. Internal temperature is no longer changing. Structural monitoring has recorded another increase. This increase is larger than the previous. Engineering confirms that remaining margin is minimal. Crew has been informed that failure may occur without warning. This information was delivered without dramatization. No response was recorded. Power reserves are now at 12% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain acceptable. Structural monitoring has briefly paused again. This pause lasted less than 1 second. Values following the pause are higher. Engineering confirms this is not a processing issue. Hull strain values are now beyond design envelope, including safety margin. This statement is for the record. No alarm has triggered. Internal pressure remains stable. No breach detected. The hull is intact. Power reserves are now at 10% of projected levels. Communications equipment continues to operate. This broadcast continues. Structural monitoring values are now changing faster than update intervals can capture smoothly. Engineering confirms that this suggests imminent structural transition. No timing estimate is possible. Crew remains braced. No movement. No speech. Power reserves are now at 8% of projected levels. Life support remains stable. Carbon dioxide levels remain controlled. Structural monitoring has recorded the highest values observed. Engineering confirms that any further increase may exceed material capacity. No alarm has triggered. Alarm thresholds are no longer relevant. Internal noise levels remain unchanged. This is consistent. Power reserves are now at 6% of projected levels. Communications equipment remains powered. Life support remains active. Structural monitoring has recorded a sudden increase across all monitored frames. The increase occurred simultaneously. Engineering confirms this is a global event. Internal pressure remains stable for now. Hull strain values continue to rise rapidly. Power reserves are now at 4% of projected levels. Life support remains active. Communications equipment remains active. Internal noise levels have changed. There is a low, continuous deformation sound. It is uniform. This is not a crack. This is material yielding. Structural monitoring values are now changing faster than logging can capture. Engineering confirms that structural integrity is failing progressively. No breach detected yet. Power reserves are now at 3% of projected levels. Life support remains active. Communications equipment remains active. Internal pressure remains stable. The deformation sound has increased. It remains continuous. This indicates compression beyond recovery. Structural monitoring has stopped producing coherent data. Values are saturating. Engineering confirms monitoring is no longer meaningful. The hull is now carrying load without margin. Power reserves are now at 2% of projected levels. Life support remains active. Communications equipment remains active. Internal pressure remains stable. There is a sharp change in sound. It is brief. This is not an explosion. It is a structural transition. Pressure inside the vessel has not changed yet. Power reserves are now at 1% of projected levels. Life support remains active. Communications equipment remains active. There is another sound. It is shorter. Internal pressure has begun to change. This change is rapid. Hull integrity has been compromised. Pressure is equalizing. This is not instant. It is fast. Life support systems are no longer maintaining pressure. Power has dropped. Communication signal remains open. I am still speaking. Pressure increase is accelerating. This is beyond human tolerance. This is the end of structural resistance. The signal remains open. There is no further voice. There is no further sound. The ocean continues.